Hey guys, welcome back to another OnShape tutorial. So this one's going to follow on from the door hinge tutorial where we created the parts of our door hinge, and today I'm going to show you how to assemble it and animate it. So the first thing you'll need to do is log into OnShape and look for the door hinge that you created last time and click on that, double click on that to open our part studio. So you should have in your part studio the leaf part of the hinge that we created last time. We called it Hinge Leaf, and then the pin, which we called Hinge Pin. Now that we've created our parts, what we want to do is go into an assembly window, which there should already be one created down the bottom here. So in mine it's called Assembly 1, but if there isn't, you're just going to need to click the plus here in the bottom left corner and select Create Assembly. But I'm just going to go into the assembly window that's already created. Okay, once you're in the assembly window, you'll notice the tools at the top change and they look a bit different, and we'll go through some of those shortly. But basically what the assembly window allows us to do is bring in all the parts that we've created for a project. So this becomes especially important when you create a project that has multiple components and parts. A door hinge was just one of the simplest projects I could think of to demonstrate how to use the assembly tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the insert tool here at the top, click that, and you'll get a list of all the parts you have in the part studio. And we're just going to start by left clicking Part Studio 1, and you'll see that it inserts the hinge leaf and the hinge pin, and you can just click the tick at the top to let it know that we're done for now. Alright, so the assembly window works in a similar way to the part studio, where you can zoom in and out with your mouse wheel by scrolling. You can rotate in 3D space by holding the right click and dragging. You can pan by clicking the mouse wheel and moving, or if you don't have a mouse, you can simply right click the cube in the top right corner and move that around, or click a face to view it. Now the first thing we need to do when we create an assembly is identify which part of our assembly is going to be fixed in space. And in this case, that's going to be this leaf part of our hinge. So to fix it, what we need to do is left click and select it, right click and then select Fix. And what that does is now in our feature tree over here, you can see there's the little fixed symbol next to it, and that means that I can't move this hinge leaf in space. So in the assembly window with parts, if you left click and drag them, you can move them around. You can't do that in a part studio. However, if you fix something like this hinge leaf, you'll see if I try and move it, I get a little red symbol that means I can't move that part because it's fixed. Now it's important that you fix one of these parts so that when you start to create mates or joins in your assembly, this part will become your main reference. Alright, so now let's start by joining this hinge pin into our hinge. And the way we do that is by using something called a mate. And a mate in OnShape basically lets us pick a point on one part and align it to a point on another part with various constraints. So to assemble our hinge now, what we need to do is use these mate connector tools at the top of the assembly window to choose 2 points, one on this hinge pin and one on the hinge that will be joined together. So the first type of mate or join that we're going to choose is a fastened mate. So I select the Fastened Mate tool in my ribbon at the top, and it's asking me to select 2 mate connectors. The first mate connector that I'm going to choose is this one at the end of our hinge. So you'll see when I mouse over the hinge, I get the option of all these little mate connectors all over the surface, and they're points that I can use to align to another part if I needed to. We're trying to align the hinge pin to this barrel part of the hinge So I need to select the mate connector at the very end in the center of this circle on the end of our hinge. So I'll select that mate connector, and then that mate connector is going to be joined to the same mate connector at the center of our hinge pin. So I click that one, click the tick, and then close our mate connector window at the top, and you can see that now our hinge leaf is connected to our hinge pin. Okay, now we need to insert another hinge leaf and rotate it 180 degrees so that we can attach it to the other side of this hinge. So to do that, we click Insert at the top of our assembly window. We're going to click Hinge Leaf, left click, and drag your mouse out into the window. Left click again to place your hinge leaf, and then click the tick to let OnShape know that you're finished. Now what we want to do is rotate this hinge 180 degrees. So to do that, we left click on it, and you'll see we get 3 arrows that allow us to move our hinge in space. This arrow here, you can see it's got a little rotate symbol at the end that lets us rotate in this direction, and that's the direction that we want to rotate our hinge. So what we do is simply click and drag this rotate symbol, and you can drag it all the way around to 180 degrees, or you can just type 180 and press enter. Once you've done that, press escape on your keyboard and then the space bar to deselect everything. Now we need to use another mate to attach this hinge to the other side of our hinge assembly here. And this time we want our hinge to be able to move. So we're going to use a different mate, and this time it's called a Revolute Mate. Now a Revolute Mate allows us to fix this hinge to our hinge pin, but still enable it the freedom to revolve around the hinge pin. So to do this, we're going to select Revolute Mate. I'm going to select the end of our hinge again in the center of our circle. And then we're going to select the opposite end of our hinge pin in the center again. And click the tick and close our dialog box. Now you can see that our hinge is fully assembled. The next thing that we're going to do is set some restrictions on our Revolute Mate and then animate our hinge to see how it would work in real life. Okay, to set the limits on our Revolute Mate, we need to double click on the mate in the feature tree and tick the box which says limits. Now I've already worked out for my hinge that here for the minimum limits I need to set it at minus 180 degrees, and for the maximum I need to set it to 120 degrees. So what you'll need to do is type into this top box minus 180 and then 120 and click the tick to let it know that you're finished. Once you've done that, if you right click on your Revolute Mate in the feature tree, select Animate. Here in the steps, you can reduce or increase the amount of steps dependent on how fast or slow you want the animation to go. Less steps means a faster animation, and more steps means a slower animation. So in this case, I might change it to 250 steps and then click play. Then I can rotate around and watch my hinge as it functions to observe how it would function in real life. If your hinge isn't functioning correctly and this leaf here is rotating through the fixed leaf, what you'll have to do is go back into your Revolute Mate by double clicking on it and change the limits so that the top one is minus 120 and the bottom one is 180, and click the tick, and that should fix it. Now that's it for this tutorial. Take a screenshot of your assembled hinge and post it underneath this post in Google Classroom. And in the next tutorial, I'm going to show you how to do an orthographic drawing of your hinge.